quick spoiler warning. Stranger Things 3 the game follows the plot of Season 3 of the Stranger Things show. While this review is spoiler-free and the gameplay shown is mostly early on in the campaign, keep that in mind if you haven't watched the newest season yet. Now, onto the review. While Stranger Things obviously oozes 80s nostalgia, Stranger Things 3 the game is reminiscent of the 2000s, bearing many of the hallmarks of the bygone licensed tie-in games of that era. Part old-school beat-em-up, part RPG, everything about its story and design tie in some way to the show that inspired it. And though it's better than many of the C-tier games that gave tie-ins a bad name, Stranger Things 3 the game still feels like an extension of the new season instead of its own thing. Without going into spoiler territory, the story in Stranger Things 3 the game feels like an abridged version of the one told throughout Season 3. Though its roughly 8-hour campaign has more detail than you'd get watching a recap, it should come as no surprise that this version lacks the same emotional punch as the show. Stranger Things 3 the game's pixel art ironically looks kind of like a fake game made for a TV show. Its faux 16-bit art style draws from a hodgepodge of influences, but manages to pull things together in a way that evokes the nostalgic warm and fuzzies you want from something designed to match Stranger Things' blanket retro vibe. And retro is the name of the game, so its structure and mechanics also feel designed to remind you of old games. Stranger Things 3 the game broadly mimics a 16-bit era action RPG. A party of two characters, one you control and a second one handled by AI or a friend in local co-op, roams around familiar areas in and around a carefully pixelated version of Hawkins, Indiana. Its story missions loosely follow the plot beats from the show, but you can progress in your own time, and have the freedom to explore the town and enjoy being inside the Stranger Things universe. Stranger Things 3 the game does its best to reward curious players with side quests and areas that are only accessible using specific characters, though you rarely get much out of the stories and rewards they offer. In keeping with the RPG motif, there are equipment and crafting systems, but they're pretty thin. The money and materials you find help you build equipable trinkets that give bonuses to some or all of your characters. While the trinkets often feel like more trouble than they're worth, this system helps foster that basic RPG loop of roaming areas, fighting enemies, and looking for chests. It gives Stranger Things 3 the game time to tell its own story and develop the Stranger Things flavor, while finally calling back to RPG's past. Though much of it screams RPG, Stranger Things 3 the game's meat and potatoes is its arcade-style beat-em-up combat. True to tie-in game form, the story missions take cues from the show's plot, but they're used to throw you into areas full of enemies to pummel that aren't in the source material. Each of the 12 characters has their own attack inspired by the new season and a special ability designed to get you out of a tight spot. The fighting is very simple and mashy, which is fine at first, but leads to pacing problems in later missions. Though there are some puzzles that mix things up, the combat loses its flavor as levels get longer and waves of enemies get larger. You can switch your two active party members out for any you've unlocked on the fly. For combat, it means you can stick with who you prefer, and it's convenient to swap between them when puzzles call for specific characters. But choosing characters purely on feel can break the immersion in the story as you put them in situations that they would be nowhere near in the show. This further reinforces the idea that this is not the best way to take in the plot for the first time. At its heart, Stranger Things 3 the game really feels like it exists for the most die-hard fans of the series. It's thoughtfully conceived and strikes a good balance between following the show faithfully and adhering to the structure of the games it imitates. Still, with thin combat and repetitive quests, it fails to make a strong case for itself apart from the show and its fandom. For more on Stranger Things 3 the game, check out our playthrough of the first 15 minutes. Plus, we already have a ton of Stranger Things Season 3 coverage for you to check out, including a review and an ending explainer. And for everything else, keep it right here on IGN.